Hello everybody! Welcome to the Cypress Hollow Zoo, a brand new franchise mode build by me, GrizGoat. This whole series is going to be based on roadside zoos that you'll see down in Florida, advertising to pet live gators, but we're going to build one in an ethical way. So with that, please like and subscribe, and let's start the build. We're starting our build off with a house. Since this is a roadside zoo, we will be basing this in someone's backyard pretty much. So it'll be just a small ranch style home with some chickens, donkeys, and goats, which we will be building barns for later on in this video. And of course, no roadside zoo would be complete without an exotic animal, so we will be building a albino caiman pond in the center of our zoo. So a lot going on in this video. I hope you guys stick around all the way through it. We're just now getting the siding up, duplicating it over and across. And I do realize that this might not be the most efficient way to build walls in Planet Zoo because it's a lot of pieces. It could have just been one piece, but instead each wall is about like 10 to 20, which does get pretty expensive, and you'll see that we blow through our budget quite quickly before we even open our zoo. But luckily, I am a franchise master at this point, so even with the bare minimum amount of money, I can turn a profit. So when we get to that point, just pay attention, and you will soon learn how to turn a profit in Planet Zoo. Here we're just adding the windows, we added the door. Our house is coming along quite nicely. We're just going to add up a few more details, like adding shutters around the windows. Before we start building our front patio, and as you can see, this house is honestly way more complex than it probably needed to be, considering it's just going to be in the background of our main zoo, but the devil's in the details in Planet Zoo, and the more you can add that doesn't matter, the better your zoo will look. So now we're just going to recolor our house. Just kind of going with a basic off-white and green accents. And then staining our deck a nice brown color. We're going with the asphalt roofs because this style of house generally is cheaper construction, so they're gonna have cheaper materials for the roof. And with that, we've got the front finished. Here is the back. We added a larger deck and just 2 simple windows instead of the 4 up front. So we're just going to add in where we think our residents are going to be walking the most, and then we'll start on our driveway. So I want to eventually have people walking down the road like they've parked on the side of the road to come to our attraction. We are also going to add a parking lot, so as the parking lot gets too full, people will be parking on the side of the road and walking there. So we're adding pathways where we want our guests to walk around on. So we're sticking with a basic gravel parking lot. This is almost exactly what you would see at a roadside attraction down in Florida or anywhere around the US, really, as just a basic gravel parking lot. So now we're going to build up our ditches with some rocks and add some rocks in the gravel just to break it up a little bit. And then of course planting some reeds because we're going for a very lush Everglades feel in this zoo. So we're gonna have a lot of tall grasses, cottontails, stuff you'd see kind of scattered around a swampy area. We're gonna add in these nice willow trees. I think they do a wonderful job of just kind of setting that swampy mood. And you can see that it's already starting to look like a nice southern bayou swamp. And then to take that idea even further, I started spreading cypress trees around because I wanted it to be a cypress swamp. And then I realized I was absolutely blowing through my budget. So we have to get the zoo started ASAP because we're running out of money. And I honestly don't know how much money it takes to start a zoo. But $15,000 is probably enough to buy a couple staff facilities and maybe an exhibit box. So we're moving our guest gate over just across from the parking lot. And then our guest spawner is going to be tucked away behind this willow tree, just so we see them kind of walking across the parking lot like they're coming from their cars. And with that, we're ready to actually start building the zoo. So we're going to start off, we're of course going to need a trade center to bring in our animals. This of course will be $1,000. Then we're going to need a keeper hut, a research center, a staff room, and a workshop. The research center and the workshop aren't quite necessary right now, but I did need the workshop in order to research the barnyard pack scenery pieces, just because I plan on using them in the zoo, and it just came out, so I want to utilize that as fast as I can. And after all that, we have $9,000 left, which was just enough to put in a walkthrough exhibit for our butterflies, and we purchased 2, which left us with $141, which is not a lot of money to play around with. So we're just going to off-center this butterfly exhibit, and we're probably going to let the game run for just a little bit. Hopefully they start breeding and we can sell some, as well as getting guest admissions. So it's been a little while. Our guests have just flooded to the butterfly habitat. We're going to sell a few so that we can make some money, because we are right now going into the red. Negative $400. That's not very good. But it looks like we have a few that we can sell. And it looks like we made $5,000, which is excellent. That means that we can start on our albino caiman habitat. The albino caiman are coming from my other zoo, the GrizGoat. The breeding program there was so successful that they're now just handing out caiman left and right. And we were lucky enough for this zoo to grab a couple albinos. So as you can see, we created a simple circle, and we're just going to have a pathway around that loops back to our butterfly habitat. And we set it right in the center of where our guests are going to be entering, so that they get an up-close experience with our caiman right off the bat. Now we're just adding in our barriers and then a staff gate, just kind of off to the side so that it's not too distracting. And now it's time to terraform our pond for our caiman. This pond is actually going to be just a juvenile pond, so we will be making another habitat for them once they grow up into adults. But as of right now, the 2 caiman we adopted are juveniles. So we're just working out some of our terrain. We're going to color the water something kind of swampy Everglades. I can't imagine that the filtration system would need to be too elaborate for this habitat, so we're going to go with more of a natural water look. And then adding in a mud pit for enrichment, and painting in the edges, raising them up just so it kind of looks like a natural mud pit and not an artificial sandbox. So now we can introduce our caiman to our habitat. Meet Yara and George, our 2 albino caiman. I know I have been just saying caiman, they're actually dwarf caiman. So I think they're ready to grow up here. It's just time for some foliage. So we're sticking with just kind of a swampy marsh theme. I love these big water hyacinths. They're very nice, and then this grass just kind of fills in the areas really nicely. We're going to copy that over to the other side and just really spam the grasses around the edge of the water. And then add a few pops of color with the flowered version of the hyacinths. And then adding the grass around to some of the grassy spots just for more detail. And then we're going to add in this big basking rock kind of close to the visitors on this side of the habitat, just so they have a good view from basically all around the habitat. So with that, we're pretty much done with our caiman habitat. Just a very simple ring. We are now going to work on our backstage barn. So this barn is going to house all of our staff facilities that we had already laid out. as well as our food stalls and our drink stands. So it's very much a multi-purpose barn. The guests really aren't encouraged to go inside of it, but here's the overall shape. Now we're going to start decorating the barn. We're going to add this second story door that you often see on barns. I believe it's to access the hayloft. But we're just adding some trim around the doors to make them look nice. And then duplicating that to the other side. And then once we trimmed all of our edges, we are now going to change the color using the FlexiColor Select tool, and we're going to make that a white color. I do end up changing that to more of a beige color, just to fit the swampier vibe that we're going for. But it's not too dramatically different. Now we're adding in our shop stalls, so the guests will come along the side and they'll be able to make their choice of where they want to eat, what they want to drink, and also access the bathroom. That being right across from the butterfly habitat, which we turned into a greenhouse. I forgot to record that part, but it's just a very simple greenhouse build. So that is looking quite nice. Our house over here in the background, the homeowner's Jeep is right there. Now it's time to get started on our donkey barn. So this zoo is not going to incorporate all of our new barnyard pack animals, just because some of them I don't see being in a tropical climate, such as the Highland cow and the alpaca, or even the hill Radnor sheep. But we will be adding the Sussex chicken, the standard donkey, and the alpine goat. We probably will actually have some plans in the future for the Tamworth pig. I could see them being at a farm like this. So yeah, I'll develop some plans for that in the future, but for right now, here is our donkey barn. We're just going to add a few details, just a little window, double door system for them to look out. We're going to leave the top door open, that way it makes a little window. And then we're going to add our trim around the door. The doors are going to be sliding barn doors that you'll typically see on this kind of barn. Move that back into place. And then I use this pole just to make it look like it has some sort of sliding mechanism. So there is our completed donkey barn. We're just gonna, once again, make the trim pieces white so that all of our outbuildings have the same theme and aesthetic. Now we're gonna use the new barnyard pack fence pieces. I like these pieces because they would definitely hold up in kind of the swampy areas of North America. So now we're just gonna add in our petting zoo gate, and we have our completed petting zoo. So in it at the moment we have 3 goats and 1 donkey. You can see the donkey there, and you can see our goat barn, which is right here. Very simple build. I just kind of used some Arctic pieces and made some ventilation around the top edge and decoration, as well as installed a gate at the front so that you can lock them in at night. So as you can see, the petting zoo is very busy. And our zoo is turning out to be very successful so far. So now you can see one of my biggest frustrations with the barnyard animal pack is just that some animals are too big, in my opinion, to be roaming around freely with guests. I think donkeys generally have kicking habits and stuff that don't cater to large crowds surrounding them. So you can see I split off the donkey barn from the rest of the goats. So the donkey will still be able to reach his head over and get some nice pets and attention. But the staff at the zoo won't have to worry about the donkey kicking somebody and causing serious harm to the guests. So now we're ready to work on our chicken habitat. We're going to build this up close to our residential house, just because the chickens probably have a practical purpose for being here and the residents having them. So here we are working on our coop. We're adding some handles to the egg boxes. This coop is based on coops I've seen in real life, not based on the chickens' needs in the game. They need a much bigger barn or something than this tiny little chicken coop that I've created here. But as far as a realistic chicken coop goes, I feel like I did a pretty good job representing that. And we're just gonna color it an off-white, which we do end up matching everything else in the zoo too. We're just gonna add a little loop around. We'll probably have an educational station by the egg box just so people can learn about farm and sustainable living, something like that. But we're gonna close off this area just so the chickens can be safe at night. And there we have our finished chicken coop, matching the rustic theme. Down in tropical areas of North America, wooden structures do not last very long and need a lot of maintenance. So here come our first chickens. I love the way that the chickens look in the Barnyard Animal Pack. Really wonderful addition. And here is our new addition to our chicken coop, our little chicken shed, just to add more hard shelter requirements and hopefully meet that. And then we're just going to add a few more details up towards the house, like this firewood stack. And if you look at the ground, the chickens have done quite a bit of damage on the backyard, so the only foliage we're going to add is around the edge. And now one of our last structures to build in this video is our ticket booth. So the people, when they pull into the parking lot, will pay their money, and then they'll be able to walk right in and enjoy the zoo. That's how a lot of little farms around my area do things. They just have a little shack where they have an employee standing there collecting money and pointing people to where they park. And once again, because this is a tropical North America zoo, the wood is going to be quite weathered. This is going to be kind of a thing that needs to be maintained quite often, so replaced with any boards they have laying around. And we're just going to add a hand railing for just that extra detail on this. And some shutters to close it up at night. And then one last detail, before I realized what the name of this zoo was going to be called, I just had it labeled the Swamplands, but we now know it as the Cypress Hollow Zoo. Thank you everybody for joining me as we build our brand new franchise and set us off to a wonderful series ahead of us. If you have any name suggestions for our animals aside from our caiman, go ahead and drop them in the comments. We have 3 goats, 1 donkey, and 3 chickens. Oh, it looks like we might also have a baby goat. So 4 goats? Yes. You can see everything is turning out to be very nice in this zoo so far. Thank you for being here. Check out this super sweet aerial view at the Cypress Hollow Zoo.